Let's get ready to rumble!
The combination, the jab, the uppercut.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
Shout out to Brian Campbell. The full Shakur Stevenson interview is in the description box.
How do you react to that tweet from Turkey in the past couple of days that's like, man, I hope Shiraz and Shakur doesn't get upset. We got big plans, baby. I don't think I've seen people tweet like that before. What was your reaction?
I have no clue. If that's how you really feel, or like, I don't know. So at the end of the day, all I can focus on is my job and what I got at hand. And I know that I'm coming in there to make sure that none of that shit happens. So
now, this is what Turkey's been doing from the jump. Now, there is the argument, it stinks of corruption, planting seeds of doubt in the minds of Belanga and Cepeda that they're not going to get a fair shot. We saw Turkey go up to the ring apron and bark at Shiraz, you're behind on points, you're behind on points. It wouldn't be hard for someone like Turkey to get hold of the scorecards and assert his position to Hamza and Funes. And to compound people's objections of that, the fight was scored a draw in a fight that I thought Shiraz clearly lost to Carlos Adames. He also told Anthony Joshua, right in front of Francis Ngannou, that we need Joshua to restore boxing's name after Fury won a contentious split decision against Francis and ended up on the canvas. He said it right in front of Francis Ngannou and directly to Anthony Joshua. I don't have Ngannou's reply, I don't have the receipt, but he was definitely defiant, and he definitely didn't like Turkey taking one side over the other. At the Crawford-Canelo presser, he sat at the Canelo table, but he said, I wanted to sit on the Crawford table. Now, it seems like a joke, but it's hard to tell. And Canelo later said, I know you're on Crawford's side to Turkey. The obvious thing to argue is what I said before, it stinks of corruption. What else could he do, potentially, to determine the outcome of the fight? The other argument is, would you prefer him not to be up front like he is? Make no mistake, promoters, broadcasters, boards, commissions, sanctioning bodies, they all have their favourites. They all have the fighters they want to win. The most common agenda would be financial. Who's going to boost up the viewership, the pay-per-view, the gate, marketing, endorsements, sponsorships, all of that good shit. But most of them have been forced to do it under the cloak of them being neutral. Turkey doesn't have that issue. He says what's on his mind. He doesn't try to be neutral or politically correct. And even when he said that it would be a disaster if Shiraz and Stevenson lose, I didn't know what to make of it, if he was deadly serious or if he was trolling. Or if he maybe perhaps meant the opposite. Perhaps not with Shiraz, but with Cepeda and Stevenson. I don't know. They say better the devil you know. At least you know what you're going into with Turkey before you go into it. There's also the Tom and Jerry fights that Turkey spoke about. Shakur took issue with that in the interview where I got the earlier clip.
Understood. Do you stand for what William Zepeda will bring to the table, a fight that we wanted for a long time? It's finally here. People are talking about, we need a smaller ring. Shakur's not going to stand and bang. How do you deal with all that negativity, distraction coming into this fight?
fuck them. They don't fucking matter. They not the ones getting in that ring. I don't gotta stand and fight somebody else's fight. I fight my own fight. And if I feel like standing there and fighting that fight, I'm doing that because I know I can win that fight. So at the end of the day, it matters who come out victorious. I'm not worried about what somebody else say and all of these rules that they trying to fake put out, and fuck them. Fuck them. I don't want to hear that shit.
It's had a mixed response, but Turkey's proactive. Knockout bonuses, performance bonuses, smaller rings. That's proactive. That's the type of fight he wants. And this is how he's going to coerce the situation to be what he wants it to be. And the bottom line is, whether you don't like that, whether you don't like Turkey having one fighter favorite over the other, his people are bankrolling the fights. Everybody sells out in life. Everybody has a price. And for all the money that Turkey and the General Entertainment Authority are laying out, there's going to be levels of indulgence and favoritism that they participate in. It's either that or go back to the old way. You can't make self-made billionaires be what you want them to be. No one's forcing me or you to purchase anything they're putting out there. The alternatives are no less corrupt than whatever we think Turkey is.
Boxing
Beats and rhymes.
No one
can do it better.
As men, we always feel we don't need help. We always feel we can do things on our own. We don't need to see a therapist. Don't cry. Go cry, show weakness. And I tell everyone, you know, you better be able to find somewhere to release, because if you don't, it's like a volcano. If you can't release, you're gonna erupt. And if you erupt, it might be on the wrong person, the wrong place at the wrong time, and now you're spending, you know, as Dion would tell you, you in jail, you spending time in prison thinking about what I should have done than what I did do, you know, and you take that time out and you take a break and you rest and you reflect on certain things. I tell people, you know, don't have an emotional reaction to things, because emotional decisions get you in trouble. You understand me? If you're gonna do something and if you're gonna say something, do it and say it from your heart, because when you say it from your heart, you mean everything you say, and you do it, you doing it from your heart. But being able to get a sports psychologist allowed me to put a lot of things on the shelf. Speaking things in a positive light and putting it on the shelf. Many things that I've been through, I've put it on the shelf. And when I put things on the shelf, it gained dust. It's forgotten. And I move forward with my life. So he allowed me to be able to see certain things clearly and be able to move forward with my life. No matter what has happened to me in my life, I can't take that back. That's the past. And right now it's the future, and I can only make it better for myself now. And if you're seeking any type of help or wanting to talk or being able to clear things out of your head or any little problem you go to or you're going through, I talk to all my men, which we're gonna come out with a podcast, a mental health podcast, you know, as well. Please go seek that.
Wilder spent the whole press conference talking about mental health, talking about doing a mental health podcast, how men need hugs. Is there any mention of the training situation? Malik ain't there. Has Don House been elevated to full trainer? Or is JD's been elevated? What's going on? I did hear it was an amicable split, however, between Deontay and Malik, so that's good. They're still brothers. Is there any mention of the fight at the press conference? Is there a fight, or is it a mental health forum? Talking about he's going to do a mental health podcast, which is all good. But I heard him talking to Tris Dixon in a separate video from the press conference. Once again, talking about mental health. And it sounded a little slurred. He took some big punches from Zhang, from Parker, from Fury. And a few months away from his 40th birthday, you have to wonder if being in a boxing ring is a good place for Wilder right now. You know, his punch resistance, his boxing acumen is unlikely to improve from here on going forward. But you don't hear Moses Atoma talking about mental issues, do you? Because he's 21. He hasn't went through the drama. He doesn't have the baggage. I'm going to do a mental health podcast. No, he's concentrating on knocking out Dillian. This is what happens to jaded fighters who've took one too many. I wouldn't be surprised if he looked a little sloppy against this Herndon. I don't expect Herndon to win, but it wouldn't shock me if Wilder looked sloppy for a little while and it goes a few rounds. He's around the same age as Alexander Usyk. You don't hear Usyk talking about mental issues and all he's been through and woe be me. You don't hear Joseph Parker doing it. Or even AJ. And AJ was knocked out in his last fight. But Wilder's got a terrible poker face. It's supposed to hold your cards to your chest if you're going in a boxing ring. Don't let everybody know that you're going through it. But that's how he is. As soon as his career started not going his way, he got very emotional. Blame game. Breland double-crossed him. The referee Kenny Bayless. Tyson Fury cheated. Racism. The costume was too heavy. There was egg weights in Tyson Fury's gloves. This is who he is. So he's convinced that he can go see a therapist a few times and he's going to resolve all the issues that we've seen him have in the ring in his last 4 or 5 fights. And it's not going to happen. The only thing that's came out of the therapy is that he likes talking about therapy. So what was it before therapy? Didn't he say he was reborn after he took ayahuasca to decide if he was going to box again, then lose his 2 fights on the bounce? When this fight was announced a few months back, he was online doing some interview. And all he kept talking about is who double-crossed him and the people who done him dirty and done him bad. He wasn't talking about boxing. His fan base, you need to read their comments in the comment section. How real Deontay is. Looking out for people's mental health. Deontay Wilder is deluded. Wilder has lost the plot. if I remember to leave the interviews that I did with Wilder before he won the belt, 2013 and 2014, I'll leave them in the description box. And you can listen to our conversations. They're totally different from the conversations you've seen him have an interview from, let's say, 2021. Totally different. I didn't realise he weighed 231 for the second Tyson Fury fight. He weighed 238 for the third Tyson Fury fight. That was October 2021. He didn't return to the ring until late 2023 when he lost to Parker. And he went back to the 213, 214 mark for the Parker and Zhang fights. He's coming in at 225 for this Terrell Hendon fight, which is big for Deontay, but perhaps not too big at the age he is now. Let's see how he carries it. Let's see if it affects his speed and the delivery of that right hand. He's got to let that right hand go. If he's going to be effective, he's got to let that right hand go. Working on yourself is commendable. In Wilder's case, he's doing therapy, but it does nothing to tell us if he's still a world-class heavyweight. And when I hear him talking, it's like, who's he trying to convince? Me? Us? Or himself?
Boxing
Beats and rhymes.
No one
can do it better.
They were talking about Joseph Parker versus Dave Allen. I don't know what Joseph Parker is doing. We might touch upon that in a minute. But Dave Allen, whose name has been associated with Deontay Wilder, Joseph Parker, the Joseph Parker fight wouldn't end well for Dave Allen. I don't believe.
Where are we going next, mate?
You know, you hear Deontay Wilder, Joseph Parker, you get a bit excited. And for a few days, I was excited. I was like, yes, let's go and do all that stuff. And then you step back and kind of thought, look, why did I get into boxing? I wanted to be British champion. That was it. I wanted to be the British heavyweight champion. I want to get out of boxing with my faculties intact. So Wilder's great, Parker's great, but I think the British title is an option against TKV next. Yeah, I want to fulfill my sole ambition why I got into boxing with the British title. Worry about the Wilders, the Parkers, the big money after.
Would you prefer that trajectory, Simon, for Dave, as Dave has just described?
It doesn't matter what I prefer, it's what he wants. If he wants the British title because it means something to him and his family and that opportunity is going to be provided, then Dave should do whatever he wants to do because it's his life. You backed yourself against Fisher, you thought you won both fights, and I think that's probably right. And obviously the second fight was much more conclusive, evidently so. When you look at Jamie TKV, all the furore about the David Adeleye fight and the controversy, how do you look at that fight, Dave? What's your thoughts about that? When you're fighting Jamie TKV, you go in there and think, that's a fighter I can categorically beat.
Yeah, I can beat him, yeah. Josie Parker, 999 times out of 1,000 I get beat. That's the truth.
I think Dave is doing the right thing, but TKV is no give me for Dave Allen. I believe he needs to come in lighter than what he did for Johnny Fisher. But I feel it's the type of fight Dave Allen loses. I don't think he motivates himself to train hard enough to beat TKV. I see TKV winning a mauling type of fight. That's what I see. A demotivated Dave Allen goes in against TKV and loses in what will not be a very pretty fight on points. But a British heavyweight title shot against Jamie TKV is a realistic target. David Adeleye has vacated the belt, going after the bag against Philippe Hrgovic. Another fight that wouldn't be happening unless that Saudi bag was there. What's in it for Hrgovic? A win will not enhance his chances of getting a shot at whoever's champion after Dubois and Usyk. Hrgovic is obviously going to take Adeleye serious, but Hrgovic is viewing this as not easy money, but the type of money you can't turn down for someone so inexperienced as David Adeleye. No disrespect, he's got a lot of potential, but he doesn't have accomplishments or a lot of experience. Ideally, Adeleye should have rematched Jamie TKV, sorted out that dispute for the British heavyweight title and move on. This is not a development fight for David Adeleye. This is gambling, but with the money they're putting up for this fight on the undercard of Moses Atoma versus Dillian Whyte, cash rules.
They offered me first Bakole. I said yes, but Bakole said no.
Bakole's considered like the boogeyman of the division, but he turned down the fight, yeah.
He's boogeyman, maybe for girls, because he's ugly and fat.
Hrgovic is easy to dislike because he's got that smug demeanor and he says shit like he just said there. I don't mind him. Personally, I don't mind him. I don't think he goes too far, but he just says what's on his mind. Nothing wrong with that. But Bakole is now deciding to turn down fights. You and Billy Nelson are being very selective about who you fight. It's a little shame they didn't have that selectiveness a few months back before they took the Joseph Parker fight on a few days' notice. basically when they was in the middle of a training camp for another fight. Billy Nelson, it's not impressive. Ben Shalom, it's on your watch. You promote Martin Bakole, it's not impressive. So, this is the opportunity for another bag for Martin Bakole, a Saudi bag. But he's not obviously, let me not be so arrogant to pretend I know. I don't believe he has lost any of the weight that the media or Billy Nelson was suggesting he needed to lose. And he himself said he was going to lose. He hasn't started shedding them pounds yet. He's not in shape. And this camp for FILIP Hrgovic would also be a fat camp. He needs to avoid fat camps. And they are going to cash him out, but they're going to make sure he's at least in decent shape for when they cash him out.
Martin is coming. The boogeyman.
I'm blowing up like a Scud missile hitting land. So take a stand and wave your hand, cause I'm your boogeyman.
Martin, you ain't no boogeyman.
Boxing
beats and rhymes.
No one
can do it better.
So Joseph Parker, WBO interim title holder, he's expected to return to the ring in September. Frank Warren has expressed he would like to see Joseph Parker fight Derek Chisora. The WBO have said Joseph can defend against anyone in the top 15 amongst the WBO, where Derek is ranked number 7. Now this will be the third fight between Derek and Joseph. Some people will say, well, if Joseph has beat him twice, what's the need? Well, the first fight was a robbery. Second time around, Joseph did what he had to do. He bulked up, boxed very well, had Derek on the floor a couple of times. But it was still a good fight. The case for Derek getting the fight is he's had 5 fights since that loss to Joseph Parker. One was a world title challenge, which probably shouldn't have happened if we're keeping it 100. But Derek's won 1 out of them 5 fights since the Parker loss, 2021, avenging a loss to Kubrat Pulev, beating Gerald Washington, upsetting Joe Joyce and beating Otto Wallin. He's ranked number 2 by the IBF, and his current form is comparable to most heavyweights out there, apart from the likes of KABAYEL and Joseph Parker himself. So I have no issue with the fight. I might have some issue if it's a pay-per-view fight though, Parker versus Chisora. But how are you going to pay these guys if you don't put it on the paywall? I don't know. I have all the answers, people. I don't. Like a lot of people are going to say, why not KABAYEL versus Parker? Well, they're both interim champions. It could happen. You couldn't get unifications between interim champions at one stage, but Ajit is the WBC interim champion, Parker WBO interim champion. Yes, it would be a good fight. You could argue it's a risky fight for both of them, with Parker beating the likes of Zhang and Wilder, fights that he definitely wasn't a clear favourite in either. And KABAYEL, his recent form, knocking off a couple of unbeaten fighters, and then Zhang, I guess it's the risk reward with that one now. They both want to crack at the heavyweight title, but they still have to stay busy in between. I'd like to see it though. I'd like to see it. But you'd have to appreciate that has to go on pay-per-view to pay either of them. With all the work they've put in to become the 2 highest ranked contenders, it has to go on pay-per-view. But who's going to pay for it? I don't think a fight like that does big numbers. Joseph Parker, for my money, is an honorary British fighter because he's put in a lot of work here, just like Alexander Usyk. So a Chisora fight will land in the UK. At Wembley, like Chisora's projecting, I'm not sure. That sounds like an O2 arena. They'll fill out the O2. Great atmosphere, but we'll see. Did a little research on Ajit, KABAYEL, and Frank Warren is looking to hook up with Universal, based in Germany, and Ajit may have a homecoming in Germany, where he was born and where he's based. No opponent has been named. I don't think they're going to go too crazy, as KABAYEL is trying to secure a world title shot. Let's hope he fights someone decent, but we'll see.
Boxing
beats and rhymes.
No one
can do it better.
I was looking forward to Kid Austin and Tevin Farmer on the MVP Golden Boy card. Unfortunately, I'm not going to purchase the pay-per-view, so I won't be able to see it live, which is pissing me off a little bit. I've already explained my reasons why I'm not purchasing that pay-per-view. I'm not going to go over it again. But that fight is of interest to me. Despite the 2 stoppage losses on Tevin's record, he is quite a durable fighter. Tough lad from Philly. Schofield hasn't been in the ring since November last year, where he failed to impress against Gidon and was actually on the deck in the 11th round. And his old man, as me and Greg Hackett pointed out, barking, shouting and swearing at his son with instructions that he could have easily and audibly have passed on to his son just seems like he doesn't need to be there. He needs to take a backseat to Ronnie Shields. And if Tevin Farmer has any ambition left after the 2 close fights against Cepeda, this could be an upset. Schofield is 18-0, 12 inside the distance. He's 22 years of age. Tevin, 33 wins, 8 losses, 1 draw, with only 8 inside the distance, although he did deck William Cepeda and could be a better puncher than the stats may lead many to believe. He's 34, a former champion at 130, and he's fought some very good names. Hasn't beaten all of them, but he's fought some very, very good names. Billy Dibb, Pedraza, John O'Carroll was undefeated, Joseph Diaz, Cepeda. What does Floyd Austin do? Does he go out there and try and bang with Tevin in the pocket? I think Tevin wins there. I think Floyd's got to get his volume up, and you would assume he's got fresher legs if the fight is fought on the outside. Get his punches off and get out of there. But if he does get suckered into it in the pocket fight, I believe he loses. I believe Tevin will school him. I actually believe Tevin is the better fighter, if I'm honest. And after watching the fiasco of Kid Austin pulling out of the Shakur Stevenson title fight, I don't know how confident he really is that he can compete at world level. I'm not saying Tevin is world-class elite, but his last 2 fights were close decisions against the #1 contender, Cepeda. I think Tevin could sneak a tight decision. I'm not running from making a pick. It's only I think the politics could go against Tevin.
Boxing. Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.